Okay. So before I really want to talk about how to respond or how to react, we first have to really get a sense of what are we reacting to? What's going on with me? What's going on with my kids? Then I can figure out how I want to respond to it. And so I think it's really, really important for everyone to first know what actually is trauma. Like, we use this word, right? But what is it? Like, what is happening to me physically, emotionally, etc., when I'm having a traumatic experience? Because once I know what something is, I can know how to treat it or how to manage it. So the best way that I could explain trauma to you is in a very visual. I teach everything visually, so bear with me, okay? So imagine here, have a look at my hand, that this is your brain, okay? This part right here is going to match this part of your brain, which is literally the thinking part of your brain, the frontal cortex. All the thoughts that you have happen in the frontal cortex, okay? Should I go here? What do I want to wear? Where do I feel, where am I going to walk to? 1 + 1 is 2. All of that is happening here, okay? The next layer of your brain is this part, which relates right to the back of your brain over here, called the limbic system. And this is where all your feelings happen. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm overwhelmed, I'm devastated. Okay, that's happening here. And just here where my thumb is, okay, is the amygdala, which is like a little button in the middle of your brain. And the amygdala alerts you to danger. And it also allows you to be based in time and space. Okay, so right now we could say it's 8:05. I'm on a Zoom with Lisa, and I feel pretty okay-ish. Okay, and you could almost feel your amygdala is a little bit jumpy, right? We kind of know, all of us in the back of our minds right now are responding to sounds that are going off, okay? And you know, the other day my dad pulled up and he was driving a Tesla, and the Tesla has that same sound as a siren. And as he was reversing, everyone kind of went, and then we were like, oh no, just dad's, just grandpa's car, okay? The amygdala is like our internal alarm system. And so when something triggers our alarm system, what the amygdala does is it starts going off, just like a car alarm. Danger, danger, danger. And when this amygdala goes off, we shoot into what's called our nervous system, right? Which is quite literally a system of nerves that's run through your eyes here. They go down your back, and I'm not going to flash you my stomach, but all the way down to a bunch of nerves around your stomach, okay? Which is why we say I've got butterflies in my stomach, because literally the nerves in your stomach are going around and around and around, okay? When that amygdala goes off, it takes us into the nervous system, which is the fight, flight, or freeze response, okay? I'm sure you've all heard of that. The tricky part about the fight, flight, or freeze response is, on one hand, it's life-saving, right? If I am, walking in a forest and I see a bear, do I run away from the bear, flight? Do I make fight the bear? Or do I make like a tree and freeze? Okay, my nervous system, which then informs my body, is going to make a split-second decision about what I need to do. And it is life-saving. That's how humanity saves itself. Soldiers in the army are trained. If everyone could just put it on Zoom, so unmute.
Get off your phone.
That nervous system is going to make a super quick decision, right? My amygdala is going to inform, do I fight, do I flight, do I freeze? Our soldiers in the army, right? Why they're training all the time. Wake and sleep happens in the nervous system, right? Override wake and sleep and go into fight rather than freeze, okay? This is all beautiful. The challenge is that sometimes when our amygdala is so hypersensitive, it goes off at the wrong time, right? When you hear a Tesla and you think it's a siren, boom, you go into this like, oh my God, do we have to get to the mamad? And then you have to realize. So the trick that we're trying to figure out here is, I have all these parents coming up to me and saying, I'm not handling my kids right. I'm not getting this right. I'm too overwhelmed. Last night, for example, I got a phone call from somebody at 10:30 at night, super apologetic, saying, I'm so sorry, I'm calling you now. And I was like, it's fine. She's this amazing, wonderful woman. She lives up north. She said, I'm getting it all wrong.
Oh my.
I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I was up north and I was going to buy my kids. I took my 3-year-old.
We need 15.
Sorry, can everyone just put their things on
Everyone
mute?
put it on mute. Yeah.
I just put your phone charge.
Yeah.
Please.
Please, if you have
phone you
access, you
answer.
can put everyone on mute.
It's
Just,
a conference call.
Never.
Please, you can put everyone on mute.
Let me see.
No.
Conference level.
Sorry, trying to do that.
Nothing ready until just because of the situation.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would argue.
And I think I had
Go
to
into participations, Luz. You can click everyone to be on mute.
thank you. That's where I did.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not letting me. 1 second. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I'll unmute you all soon. Okay. So this poor woman phones me and she's absolutely hysterical because she said we were in the Golan and I said to my little son, let's go and buy a new toy. And I took him to the toy shop. And when we were at the toy shop, she said, all of a sudden this siren starts going off. And I realized I've got to find the miklat. And then there's an alert coming and something saying that there might be an intruder in the Golan. And she says, and I'm running around, she says, I see a group of soldiers. They don't seem to know what to do. She says, and then I see 100 Bnei Akiva kids who are all running into the miklat. So now they go into the miklat and they're sort of looking around at the soldiers to tell them what to do. And no one knows what to do. And they're sort of standing there. And then there was like, oh my God, is there a mechabel here? They don't know. And they're getting all these alerts, right? Remember all the false alerts that went off in the Golan yesterday, right? She's like, okay. And then she's standing in the miklat and her 3-year-old needs to pee. So she runs outside to go and get him to pee. And then she's coming back in and she's got her father-in-law with her saying, well, why don't you know what's he's from America? Don't you know what apps to have? And she's like, I've got the apps. They're not working. And then one of the soldiers says to her, we don't know what to tell you. Do whatever you think is right. Now, does she stay or does she go? She's totally in her nervous system, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. She decides, split-second decision, right? I'm going to flight. And she grabs her kid and she says to her father-in-law, let's run. And they jump into the car and she's yelling at her kid, put your seatbelt on. And she's yelling at her father-in-law and she's driving like a lunatic, right? And she's like getting home and then her husband's all upset with her because she's upset the kid who's crying. And she phones me at 10:30 at night, hysterical, saying, I'm not parenting. I'm not doing this right. Right? How many of you have had that experience? I'm not doing this right. I'm not saying the right thing, right? Say I, right? Right. When I turned and I said, hold on a second. The nervous system, that's your system telling you that everything is working beautifully. You had to make a split-second decision. Do I fight, flight, or freeze? And you picked flight. Okay, so you yelled, you drove fast, you were annoyed with your father-in-law, you got there, your kid was crying, okay. But mommy lion had to decide in 4 seconds, split seconds, how do I save my kid's life, right? At that moment, you didn't know it was nothing, which meant your nervous system was working beautifully, doing exactly the thing that you wanted it to do, which was protect my kid. That's what it's meant to do. So the fact that we didn't handle it so well, okay, we can forgive ourselves. Because remember the brain that I just showed you? When I go into fight, flight, or freeze, my feeling brain switches off. My thinking brain, to a degree, switches off. So I'm not really thinking about the best way that I could maybe describe to my kid to do whatever. I'm just in, let me save my kid's life. And thank God, it means your nervous system is working. I have endless stories to tell you about mothers who have come crying to me this week that they're not, and fathers actually, that they're not getting it right. You know, I've been working with a family from Sderot, and I've been seeing them a couple times, and then I was sitting with the father, and he said to me, after 3 days, the dad's been all cheerful, and he's been all fine, and then last night he said to me, you know, he said, I think I had one of those things called a panic attack. And I said, okay. He said, now I know what the kids are talking about. I said, yeah. And he was like, I don't think I handled them so well. Like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, oh, well, like you're having a total and utter, which I'm going to talk to you about, normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And he's panicking because he's trying to figure out where are they going to go, right? Back to Sderot, stay here. He's the dad. What's the next move, right? And then the mom came in crying to me. She was like, you know, she had popped a pill or two, okay, you know, just like an anti-anxiety med. And she said, I think I got the pill a bit wrong. She was like, I think I took 2 and I was only meant to take a half. And I'm not encouraging that. But I had to say, here was a mom with 5 kids in a hotel room. And she's trying to figure out how she can. And she's here, right? Do I fight? Like, we're not back in our fully integrated brains that often helps us make the best decisions. And so the first rule of trauma that you all need to know is that any reaction that you have, any reaction is a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. It's okay when you're in fight, flight, or freeze and you're figuring out the best way that you are not the perfect parent who knows the perfect thing to say. You are in life-saving mode, figuring out what to do. We can always come back to our children and say, I think I could have said that in a calmer way. Or I'm sorry that I lost the plot yesterday. I was super anxious and overwhelmed. Let me try this again. Okay. Children are resilient and they're great at giving us second chances. They're amazing at giving us second chances, right? And we teach them that they also have second chances to get it right again. And so normal reaction to abnormal situation. Okay. The next piece that I want to teach you is, okay, Lisa, thank you very much. We do need to know that there are many, many things available to us in order to calm down. So if you know that you're going to be phoning with one of your kids in the army, or you know that one of your kids is coming home and has seen more things than any child should have possibly seen in this lifetime, and you want to have some real conversations with them, you do want to calm yourself down first, because fair, you know, like you're here, and if you're going to have a big conversation, you want to get back here with your brain fully working, integrated, and able to function again. Okay, it's okay that you go here, but know when you want to be here. So there are a million ways that we can get our brain back here. Okay, I'm going to teach you just one tonight, or maybe 2 if you want. And afterwards, if anyone wants me to teach them others, I can. You need to find the method that works for you. Okay, but understand that when you are here, okay, in fight, flight, or freeze, or the overwhelmed amygdala, okay, getting back into the integrated brain takes a little bit of time. So the way that I best describe it is, if I'm sure all of you have seen a toddler at a bar mitzvah at 11 p.m. at night. Okay, you know that toddler where it's been too much music, too much noise, they're exhausted, they've probably had like 5,000, I don't know, candy, sugar, whatever things, and they're not being spoiled, they're just overwhelmed, and the toddler starts crying. Okay, now if you or I went and started screaming and crying at the toddler to calm down, someone would think we were insane, right? Because we all know what a screaming, crying toddler at 11 p.m. at night needs. They just need to be held and to be told, shh. Okay, when we're here, are like a toddler at 11 p.m. at night. It's an overwhelmed, hyper-aroused nervous system, and it needs to be calmed down. But just like a toddler, you know, when you try calm a toddler down and they kind of go like that, it takes them a while. It takes us a while. Okay, it takes us a little bit of time to calm down. So if any of you experience all that anxious kind of feeling, right, lots of sensations in your body, if you start yelling at yourself, just calm down. What's wrong with me? I'm the worst mom in the world. That's like screaming at the toddler. Okay. And if you're like, there, I did it. I took 3 breaths. Like I have tons of people that say to me, I breathed 3 times and it didn't work. That's like telling a toddler, breathe 3 times and shush. Like it doesn't work. We have to calm the nervous system. So I'm going to try and I'm going to share this screen with you. I'm giving you one method. Okay. it for sure does not have to be what all of you use. I hope you can see this. I think I've got a lot of junk on my screen that I'm going to try and get rid of without stopping the Zoom. Hold on. Can you all see it? Okay. The first thing I want you to do, if you're in that totally overwhelmed state and you know that you've got a big conversation, or you know you just need to calm down and get it together, because sometimes moms and dads, we just need to get it together, okay? Is you literally butterfly cross your arms and you just hold yourself like this, because the nervous system, remember, is running like this. So you want to hold those nerves, okay? And you just want to literally tap and count till 25, just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know this looks ridiculous. You just need to trust me. I do this on Hatzalah at calls where we've had some like really, really traumatic events. And I look at people and I say, just cross your arms and count. And you have no idea what that does for people. So you just cross your arms and you're counting till 20, 25, okay? Then you make sure you put your feet on the ground. I'm going to show you my feet, but put your feet, that's step 2, strong and on the ground, and really feel it, okay? And you may look around and just count and see 10 different objects. So in front of me now, I see a mobile phone, I see a book, I see a cup of water, and you just look for 10 objects. The reason why I'm making you count and look for objects is I want your thinking brain to come back so you can do hard conversations. Okay, that's step 1 and 2. Step 3 is you're going to put your hand on your heart and a hand on your stomach. And you're just going to start paying attention to your breath. Just slow breathing. And then the minute you do that, the most interesting thing is going to happen. You're going to become aware of all the parts of your body that feel super uncomfortable. This is step 4. So you'll notice a crick in your back, or like a little something in your neck, or maybe in your shoulders or the stomach or the chest. And what you end up doing is going to each part of your body and just giving that sensation a minute until your breath comes, until you breathe. And then you might move to the next stage. Sometimes I have 2 sensations, sometimes I have 10, okay? And once you've gone through, you will notice your body slowing down. And step 5, all you do is think of one beautiful thing, not a mixed thing, not like, oh, my children, because if your child's at war, that's currently a mixed resource, something that's just not mixed for you. So whether it's ice cream or going to the beach or something lovely that someone said to you, just a total whole resource, you're just going to think of that, okay? And notice your breath. Now, I'm not telling you this as it's going to take away all of your feelings, all the stuff going on in your head. We're not looking to fix anything. We're just looking to bring your brain back so that you can speak with your kids or communicate with yourself, catch your breath in the way that you need. Okay, this is a trauma and a response to calming down the trauma. Okay, I have tons of things that you can do. So if anyone wants that slide, I can share it with you. But there are 5,000 different ways that we can go from here to here. Find one, going for a walk, listening to music, meditation, anything, okay? But before we do big things with kids, try as best as you can to get your brain back, because we need our brain, okay? So now let's talk about the kids. So anyone who's ever worked with me on parenting stuff and who's here tonight will know that my big tagline, I'm so nervous of ever standing in front of parents, teaching them how to be with children. I have 5 children. There's no one right way. And what works for one kid is not going to work for the other. My most humble opinion, and I don't have research for this, it's just my own meandering experience, is that our children need, want, deserve, respond to our authenticity and our realness every time. Our kids can 100,000% handle our humanity. Our kids can handle our tears. They can handle our sadness. They can handle what's hard. They can handle us not knowing, as long as we're real. As long as I'm just totally human with them. I realize while your kids are in combat, that's going to look a bit different, and I'm going to get to that, okay? But I just feel when our kids are coming home and they're upset, we are allowed to cry with our children and be human. Magia lahem, our authenticity. If we can't model that for them, how will they know that they're allowed to be that way too? Okay. I guess what's catching us all is that we have kids now who have done the unthinkable. They have seen the unthinkable. They have losses that most of us cannot relate to because we haven't had them. And we're meant to be these all-knowing parents, except we're not. So let's just own the authenticity of that moment. We're not. We're not the all-knowing parents. So there's two things that I want to say about this in terms of, well, how do we help them? Like, how do we show up for them? And I wish I had a life-changing answer for you, but I'm just going to teach you a little of what is helpful to know, okay? There is no fixing terrible realities. We just have to teach them how to work with it. So there's a sentence I'm going to say to you that I want you all to remember, which is the opposite of helplessness is action. I'm going to say it again. The opposite of helplessness is action. So for those of you that just have teens at home and kids around and they are devastated and they don't feel safe, they feel helpless, move those kids to action, okay? Get them volunteering, get them baking, get them cooking, get them doing, right? Limit their screens. With older kids, I can't tell you what to do with your older kids. I turned to my older kids and I said to them, you're too old for me to tell you what to delete off your phones, because I could tell you to delete it and you'll put it back on. I said, the only thing as your mom that I could tell you is that your mind is your temple. Your mind is your gift from God, and you want to protect what you put in your mind. So protect it. And if there's stuff that you know your mind would be better off not seeing, get rid of it. And if you need to take TikTok off for 2 weeks, take it off for 2 weeks and then put it back on. But your mind is your temple. And I was shocked how well they responded to that, okay? But the first thing we want to do is our kids who are not feeling safe, who are feeling like really, really helpless, what terror and trauma does so magnificently is it takes away our feeling of control, right? When I go on a Hatzalah call and I see someone and they've had the worst day of their lives, their universe of control has just spun on its axis. The first thing we go in and make them do, once I've said, hi, I'm Lisa, and right, is I'm like, right, what do you need to do, Emma? And they look at me and I'm like, is there somebody you need to call? Do you need to go and get something? I don't say, let me go get you something to drink. I say, do you need to go and get something to drink? Not because I think this poor woman needs to do it. I want her back in action. Because the minute she's in action, I'm like, do any of your children need to eat? Right? And I'm getting her thinking about it, because the minute I snap someone back into action, I return their center of control to them, like they can do something. So when we have kids who feel like they don't have a locus of control, we want to give it back to them. So get them moving. I know all of you, if they're anything like the teenagers that I am seeing come through my house in droves, the spirit of volunteerism that we are seeing from our youth is unlike anything you will see anything in the world. They are tremendous, tremendous. But our children have intuited that. If they go and take a woman's sukkah down because her husband's in Miloim, amazing, they're back in control. If they're collecting jackets, I mean, there is a massive, and I'm going to single her out because she's phenomenal. I mean, Kayla Glick, the girl, is 22 years old and she is running the biggest collection project in all of Ranana. I mean, her mother and I have been laughing all week at, oh my God, we don't know how she's doing it. She has taken over from the area, right? She is like telling the area what to do. She's 22. Our kids are intuiting and getting that the opposite of helplessness is action. Okay, the kids who have been through terrible trauma, your kids who have seen terrible things and had to do terrible things, you want to help them rebuild their locus of control, their sense that they are not powerless. Okay, so how do we do that? So when they come home and they want to talk to you, it's not so much about getting the story out of them. Maybe they're going to want to tell you the story. and every detail that happened to them. You know, and I know so many of your children, I see you all on the Zoom here. I know so many of your kids have had to do huge things. The story is lovely, if not lovely. The story is the story, if they want to tell it to you. Some kids don't want to tell the story. What we want to get from our kids who have seen and done terrible things is, how did you do that? You want to be the person who asks them about their courage, their bravery. How did you do that? You know, I heard today about a chayelet. She's an Australian. She had been 3 months in this country, just new in basic training. And she had to go, and she took a gun that she didn't know how to shoot, and she had to go and stand guard and watch all her commanders be killed. Okay? Now, what I want to sit, and she sat with them for 12 hours. Now, I want to watch that little girl. I don't want to know what happened to her. I want to know, how did you do that? And her first response may be, well, I just did it. I don't know. And I'm going, how did you do that? And then she's going to say things like this to me. Well, I thought about those people and I was going to watch them. Wow, you cared for your friends. Well, there was no one else coming. So I just had to be, wow, you, like, every time it's finding, how did they take control of a situation? How did you get home? Right? Whatever they did to rebuild their locus of control, every tiny act of heroism, of courage, of fortitude, of doing something difficult, we want to know about that, not the story. If the story unfolds, beautiful. I don't need to unpack the story in trauma. In trauma, I want to bring them back to control. So I want to keep pushing and fighting to find out, how did you turn yourself into such a hero? I don't know how you did that. How did you do that? Most of the time, that's what I do with mothers. How did you do that? And really, if we ask each other, I don't know how many moms are doing the things that they're doing. You know, one mom said to me today, I'm just focusing on, she said, I can't volunteer. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm literally focusing on my next breath. I was like, wow, you breathe, mommy, you breathe. Like, right, there's her locus of control again. I feel like that is going to be the most life-changing thing that you can give your children. And I wish that I could sit here and be the person, say we can fix it for them and say all the right things and make it amazing, but we can't. We can't. But we can remind them that they are magnificent, and that even in a world that has lost all sense of certainty, within them is a kind of control. And that is where they calm down. That is where we stave off PTSD. And that is where they return to who they really, truly are, which is what we want for them. Okay, with regard to soldiers. Okay. So with soldiers, there's a couple things. They are currently betafkid, and they need to be betafkid. They don't need to be worrying about mommy. They don't need to be worrying about their siblings. Currently, in their here and now is their tafkid. And I know I'm asking and telling you the impossible, but we have to back them up in their tafkid. I'll use the Hebrew because it's far, kan ve'achshav, in the here and now. Okay, which means you get to say to them, if your soldier phones you and they're overwhelmed. Now, most of our soldiers are being super tough, but if one of your kids phones you and they're overwhelmed, you get to say to them, I know it's hard. I see you. You're amazing. But then you say, okay, first we'll remind them, you do know what to do. Even if it's things you've never seen before, you are smart and you know how to figure things out. You get to tell them that you are not alone. You have a team. You have soldiers with you. But then you go into the how and what, right? You are a soldier. You're going to adapt. You're going to figure out this situation. Many of it is totally foreign to you, and some of it is not. You have been trained to know what to do. And if you don't know, ask somebody. You're not alone. Your power, we get to tell them, is taking charge of the here and now. What do I know how to do, right? What do I have control over? Ask them, what do you have control over right now? Like, can you take care of yourself? How do you take care of yourself? Are they your friends and soldiers that you can help take care of? And when we move our overwhelmed soldiers to say in the here and now, you're okay, you know what to do right now. And that's the best that you can give them. And the second thing that you can give them, if they're not phoning you overwhelmed, is give them your humor. You know, I don't know if any of you saw Marcy Clark and her kids who have handed out their cookies, right? Their cookies with a huge joke. Those cookies have gone viral because not through Marcy and her kids, through the Chaylim. They've had something like 400,000 likes on Twitter because the Chaylim are cracking up laughing over the cookies, right? Okay, if you haven't seen it, ask me, I'll show you pictures. Another mom told me today, thank you, Karen Struck, that she sent her son jokes. And he turned around and said, could you just send me more of those? Like, bring them your laughter, bring them your humor, bring them into the here and now, right? There will be plenty time to debrief later, and debrief we will have to as a nation, as families, and certainly individually. But right now, you know, and if I'm mom who's here, I want to get back here before I talk to my kid. I do. They deserve that. They need that. And if I say nothing, I can just listen. There is no ideal mother on the telephone when your chayal is standing on the border of Gaza. So to have any hope that you should be at your perfect mommy self, let's just do away with that and be real. Like, just focus on the next breath, because that's probably the best that you can do. Okay, the very last thing I want to share with you is something I've been working on over 1 million phone calls with a friend of mine called Jody Bash, who lives currently in Baltimore. Jody's an energetic intuit, so I've been having a lot of conversations with her. Whatever frequency work and energy work is something that I'm slowly learning to do in my clinic. So I want to tell you about what I'm working on, because it's huge and it's going to shift your mind. So the Parsha this week is Breshit. Okay. And this is what is said in the Parsha this week. I promise this isn't a Torah class. I'm going to get there quickly. Okay. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. The Spirit of God was hovering on the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day and the darkness night, and evening passed and morning came, marking the first day. What has struck me is that God never, ever created darkness. Darkness just is. We do not need to fight darkness. Our children are not going into a battle against darkness. Darkness is. We are the creators of light. If I step into a dark room and I try and fight the darkness, I'm going to get nowhere. What I need to do is light the light, and the darkness goes away. But before Hashem just makes the light, he separates the darkness. He separates, there's the darkness, and here's the light. Tzva Haganah Yisrael, the defenders of Israel, are the separation. Our kids are not going to destroy evil in the world. They may have to wipe out and do many things to Hamas, not to get rid of evil. Because if I try and fight with evil, it's like being in a dark room. It will just engulf me. What I have to become is the creator of light and a defender of the boundary of light. And we have to teach our children that they are going in to be defenders, creators of making light. We are not called, there's a reason why we're called Or Lagoyim. The history, the story of the Jewish people is to be creators of light. Okay, if we look and we say, this is where our control is, this is where our power is. If you look at our children, look at these teenagers, they're unbelievable. They are creators of light. You look at our Chaylim, they are defenders. You know, when we look at these Hamas people and we say, how can they do that? Because they're not people anymore. They have literally been engulfed in darkness. They have been brainwashed into darkness since they were 2 and 3 years old. We will never be able to fight that. We may have to defend that. We may have to take out 1 million buildings or half of Gaza in order to say, we will defend our light. The Jewish people are the world's creators of life. That is what your children are doing here. It is what you are doing here. So if you do that by baking cookies, or you do that by writing speeches, or you do that by making viral videos, I don't care how you do it, but your mission as mom and dad is to dig deep and say, how do I create light? And how do I teach my children to create light? And when I speak with my kids in the army or my kids who have seen the unthinkable, I say to them, you are a protector of light. When my kid goes to bury his friends, I say, you are going to give dignity and give kadosh, holiness, to that kid who was a defender of light, and we are going to thank them. And that is how you're going to do it at age 18. And I know I'm asking the impossible, but that is our story. That is our historical story. It is our soul story, and we're here to do it again. You can teach this to your children. I sat with my 16 and 18-year-old son today, and I said, this is where it's at, boys. Before they drove down south to go give hamburgers to 150 soldiers, you are defenders of light, and they're the defenders of light. That's our power. And from here, I promise you, our children will recover. It is going to be a long, difficult road to recovery. You are not killing trauma in one conversation. We will all have to recover. Trauma is contagious. We have national trauma, family trauma, and personal trauma, and it will take time. But we are creators and co-creators of light. That is the godlike part. Just like God never created darkness, he created light. We are co-creators of light. Teach this to your children. This is their power, and this is their healing. And that's where I'm going to stop. So I'm going to unmute you. And if people have questions, if I can figure out how to unmute you.
The same way you muted people, you can unmute them. Or they can unmute themselves if they want to ask questions.
Okay, there. So now whoever wants to unmute themselves, they can unmute themselves. I'm sorry if I didn't get to answer every question, but if you have any questions, go for it. I wish.
Well, while people are thinking about their question, I just want to say that your whole presentation is breathtaking. Thank you so much. It's for every age. And it's for every one of us. And we should apply everything you taught us to ourselves so that we can give it to everybody else that's around us. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else, comments, things you want to share? I know it's Zoom, so nobody does this on Zoom, but if you want to, here's a good chance. Okay.
Listen, I'm going to take advantage. Sometimes I do speaking too, and one of the things I learned is sometimes it takes people a while to collect their thoughts to ask a question. So I'm sure somebody's going to have some kind of comment or question. If I can make a request, I mean, this is my first time seeing you or being exposed to your amazing teachings, but if you could do little shorts that we can start to circulate around, that people can show their kids or themselves in the Miklatim. Last night I saw one, it came up on a reel on somewhere, and I saved it, and it was a little girl teaching 4 tips. You've seen that one?
Yeah, she's amazing.
So we were in lockdown last night. We thought that there were infiltrators on the Moshav, so everybody was freaking out. And my grandkids were feeling the stress also. And I showed them this video, and they just watching it, the possibility of concentrating, somebody who's giving them a new possibility. So that's my request, if you could do something.
I'll show you one of them that she does. I did it with a little girl who I met this week who was in shock and she wasn't talking. So I couldn't get her to talk. She looked at me like I was some crazy person. Here I come with my stupid accent. She didn't even understand me. And I was going nowhere for like an hour and a bit thinking, oh my God. And then I just looked and I said, could we just do this? And I got her to take her fingers, and you just go, you say, I mean, you could say anything you want. I let her choose them, but you literally go, I am smart. I am strong. I'm amazing. I'm a survivor. I'm strong. I'm smart. I'm a survivor. And I got my 7-year-old to do it, and he just went, I'm smart, I'm good, I'm alive, I'm Jewish. Like they can pick whatever they want, but you just keep going. And what ends up happening is someone who's here, just because they're touching on points and they're using here, and it goes right back here with all these positive affirmations. So that's like another one of like the 5-step thing, but this one on kids is amazing. There's also, you can put your hands like this, and sometimes I just get my kids to stand and I say, in one hand is a flower, and we imagine what flower they have, and in another hand is a candle, and we smell the flower and we blow the candle. And in 2 seconds, everyone's breathing. And then there's a joke, oh my gosh, your breath stinks. And like everyone's right back down calm again. So there are a lot of things that we can do. The goal is always, you just need to understand the theory to go from here back to here. Yeah. Anyone else? Otherwise, we could wrap it up, because I'm sure you all have where to be with the 5,000 WhatsApps that I know.
I'm
that
gonna
everybody's
I'm gonna
getting.
ask you, Liz.
Yeah.
You're phenomenal. I think I watch all of your talks, and I still don't like. Yeah, you can't
Yeah,
have
did
enough.
you
You're
say your-
amazing.
Did you
Let's be
say your
honest, that's 'cause you
website?
live- I am actually building a website, but Candace lives next door, my mother, so she doesn't have a choice.
I don't anymore. I don't live there anymore, and I still love you. Anyway, my question was, and I know this is obviously more geared for people on the front line, and we are incredibly grateful for the amazing soldiers. I'm asking for the younger group, obviously, like my daughter, that are 4 years old, and they can feel it and they can see it, but they don't have the understanding of it. Yeah, what do you say to them? I told you the other day, and I joked and I said we're doing a lot of baking, but
I maybe
Yeah.
not everyone agrees with me, but I think with little kids, less is best. I know that the Israeli culture is obsessed with over-informing and oversharing and overtelling with kids. I don't think they have the cognitive processing all the time to manage every detail. They don't need to see the news. They don't need to know everything that happens. They just don't. They need to know what to do, control when there's a siren, and they need to be able to tell you what and how, what to do and how they feel. They don't need to know how you feel all day long. If you get the feeling wrong, like, the mom who's frazzled, you get to say, I'm sorry, mommy got so stressed. Mommy didn't know what to do, and she got a big fright. And kids will be like, okay, mommy, like, and otherwise you say, oh, I see you're really upset. How do you feel? Like, what and how? But I think this avalanche of information for little kids I'm not a child psychologist, so I would maybe take that question to the child psychologist, but I just feel a little bit of innocence goes a long way for as long as possible, but that's my humble opinion, and different parents will think differently, and I'm open to their thoughts. Like I don't have scientific evidence on that. Okay, we have a question.
I'd like to ask a question. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Gags.
I was wondering, how do we deal with our own darkness, our anger, our own hatred? That I don't know. I'm sure I'm feeling it. I'm sure a lot of other young adults, parents,
Right.
children that are going to grow up, the whole generation learning, oh, okay, to hate Palestinians or Hamas or people from Gaza. Like, how do we all deal with our own anger?
So that was my question. That's how I started this conversation with this woman, Jody, was because I said, I have never been a person in my life who could have ever imagined myself saying, just carpet bomb Gaza. And I find myself feeling that, and I can't believe it's me. Like me, who teaches my kids about love and about love is the way we connect to God. So how can I feel such anger? And that's when this is when this analogy came up of, we can't get rid of darkness, because even Hashem didn't create darkness. It just is. It exists. Light is our creation. So when I have that anger, I don't have to worry about getting rid of the anger and not feeling whatever. I have to just say, what is my light creation? Like my response to my hatred is my love. Like what and what can I do? Like how do I bring light? Because that's what's going to change it. If I try and just engage and stay stuck in the darkness and the hatred, it will just consume me, And so my antidote is to say, okay, let me do it. Sometimes in our army, that's defense, and that looks like we got to do things, but only because we have to protect. But on a personal level, do like, what's the light that God gave you, and go put it in the world.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, sure.
I actually teach about anger. And so I have a lot to say, but I won't say a lot, but I'll say a couple things. I used to be a martial artist, and I was working out with one of my teachers at one point, and he said, when you're sparring with somebody and they get a good hit in, never get angry, because as soon as you get angry, you lose your balance. You don't have clarity. If somebody gets a hit in, you go, oh, now I see where I was open. Now I know where I have to take care of myself better. So that was very helpful. And then when I started studying Torah, I learned that anger comes from a place really of gava. How do you say that in English? Arrogance.
Right.
Yeah, it's really comes from arrogance, because we think we know better than God. We think we know how it should be. And so when we understand that everything is from God, we go, okay, so that person is a stick in the hand, they're a stick in the hand of God. How do I need to respond? So now it just goes back really exactly to what this whole class is. How do I need to respond? And what's going to serve us the best in our response? And the anger cuts us off. That feeling of anger takes us to that place, and understanding how to respond. And it's okay to feel angry, because we're human, so we're gonna feel it. We are gonna feel it. So it's not about beating yourself up if you knowing what you want. What's your choice in that moment? Hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Liz,
Yeah.
so number one, thank you. I'm really glad we managed to convince you. Number two, I'm not necessarily always a glass half full person, but the truth is I hadn't figured out yet how to deal with post-COVID and all the stress and leftover from there. But that's gone now. We kind of don't have to deal with that. The rest of the world is dealing with that, and we're dealing with our own new stresses. At least we don't have both.
Yeah, and I think that's another really important thing to also say to the kids. This war will end. I know we're in it, and I know it may not end soon, but it will end. And like, we have to be able to say that to them. One of the first lines when you arrive at a trauma scene is you say to people, the event's over. It's over, right? And then we can bring them out of trauma mode. And right now we don't have the luxury of saying to our kids, it's over. But we do know that it will end. We don't know in what form or in what shape or how bad, but it will end. And I think that's something we have to hold also, like there will be a new day at some point after this. It will come. And I kind of always hold that in my back pocket just a little. Anyway, okay. Unless there's anything else, I think maybe this is a good time to stop. Thank you all really for coming. I hope it was helpful. If any of you have questions or you're just struggling, so please be in touch and call. My phone is pretty much 24/7 at the moment.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks so
Amazing.
much, Lisa.
Really, thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Anyway, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Bye.